Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now.
On today's episode of the One Gang Worldwide podcast, we're joined by Jason Gearld, the founder of Phoenix Handlebars. Jason has carved a niche in the motorcycle industry with his high-quality custom-designed handlebars that not only enhance the look of a bike, but also improve rider comfort and control. Jason will get in the world of motorcycle handlebar design, share his journey of starting and growing Phoenix Handlebars, and discuss the impact of ergonomics and aesthetics in motorcycle customization. So let's steer this conversation into the heart of motorcycle customization with Jason Gearld, right here on the One Gang podcast.
And I say, we sell a trust product. I've got to lay my head down on a pillow at night knowing that I've kept everybody safe. Absolutely. And we have supercross riders.
Hey, One Gang, if you enjoy the podcast, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can turn notifications on to hear when new episodes are dropped, too. Any of your engagement supports the show and helps us book great guests and keeps us going. If you or a friend would make a great guest, hit us up at cyclesworldwide.com or drop a comment. Thank you guys so much.
One Gang Worldwide podcast, brought to you by Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping. Since 1978, Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping has been the trusted name in transporting motorcycles safely across the country. With custom-designed pallets and air ride trailers, your bike is secure and protected every step of the way. By choosing Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping, you're supporting a dedicated small business that prioritizes quality and customer satisfaction. Ship with a peace of mind, knowing your motorcycle is in expert hands.
Please visit shippingmymotorcycle.com. That's shippingmymotorcycle.com. And now, back to our show.
All right, One Gang, welcome to our show today. We've got a man of many hats, Jason Gearld of Motorcycle Industry Jobs. We're excited to have you, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
Jason, thanks for coming on, buddy. Phoenix Handlebars, Motorcycle Industry Jobs, man. We're going to get into all that fun stuff, but let's kick things off a little bit where it all started. Tell us a little bit about you growing up in Indiana.
Yeah, I grew up in Indiana, which is how a lot of people growing up in India probably feel. Country, cornfields, far from the moto industry. It's kind of funny. I don't even remember where that first thing that hit me with moto was, because we're pre-internet,
Right.
I guess my mom brought back home, which I'll never forget, June 1985 issue of Dirt Bike magazine. There was a moto track that was down the road from us, and I remember sitting in the yard. Just didn't have the internet to know when a race was going to be going on, and I remember just waiting for trucks to drive by every handful of weeks because they'd be going to a motocross race. And back then it was like seeing a celebrity just to see a dirt bike in the back of a truck. So I had a couple of nearby neighbors that had dirt bikes, and that's what started the love of just, again, merely seeing a dirt bike.
Did you ever imagine it'd be such a big part of your life growing up now, man? Looking back at that, as a kid that gets this magazine, and all of a sudden, man, your whole life has been shifted throughout that world.
No, nearly flunking out of high school because you had a motocross action magazine hidden in your, in every, no. And, a wardrobe that was all dirt bike t-shirts, and definitely didn't have a vision that this is where I wanted to be. And, after, and I had two other buddies in our school that rode moto. So it was, I went to a pretty darn small school. And, when I started working at a motorcycle shop, even then you just almost felt a little bit like, I don't know where I'm going in life. So to be where I ended up being is something where I never lose sight of it.
So when your mom brought home the Dirt Bike magazine, do you remember what it was in those pages that really kind of got you heated and interested in it?
Not particularly. I remember an O'Neill ad at the very beginning, O'Neill Racing. So, it's that was there's that first, the gear, and seeing guys like, Keith O'Neill, Andre Malherbe, and these guys in there and just seeing the faces, and those were my takeaways, and just like all the suspension. I remember
Right,
like the
right.
travel just looked
Yeah.
crazy. Of course, I didn't know what travel was at the point, but yeah, it's just, I mean, I wasn't even really into BMX. Again, it's like, it's one of those things when you go back in early 80s, and again, we weren't inundated with all the stuff that
Right,
we
right,
have
right.
today. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm sure glad she did bring it home.
Yeah, it's true, man.
It's
It's
like,
true
because
that
I'm
you
not,
say that. I think
yeah,
I don't know how old you are. I'm 53, so I just remember that same thing in the 80s. Like if your friend didn't have it, you really didn't know too much about it. So everything we
yeah.
learned wasn't from internet or anything like that. It was like when we saw somebody who had it. So later that year, you got your first XR80. That must have been pretty
Mhm.
sick because we all started from the 50s to the 80s. You went straight to the 80.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, do you remember that first ride? And who taught you? Like who taught you how to
everything.
ride?
Dad taught me to ride. And the beautiful part of being in the country is we had 4 acres.
Sweet.
Other part is I was too much of a
Nice.
pussy to like go like explore. So
Right.
he he put me in a little track with uh just the riding lawnmower, and I remember just doing lap after lap after lap. But I had nobody to ride with, so it's like I just learned on my own, and they didn't have a love of moto. I mean, actually, Dad was kind of quite the contrary. He was hunting and fishing, and dirt bikes made too much noise, which is funny. It's like the XR80 was whisper quiet. It's like
Right, right.
freaking whispering unicorn back then. It's like, and yeah, I remember like just riding a lot, no helmet. All those like all those silly stupid things that we do as kids. That it's
Did you fall in love
man.
with it? Like getting on the bike? Was
Mhm.
that something, you know how some people kind of like they pick up whether it's a sport or whether whatever, if you're doing dirt biking or BMX or anything like that, what was it that kind of a passion for you right there and then, or did it kind of come over
Yeah.
time?
No, that it was in there. It was in from day one.
Day
And
one.
the thing is I mean, within our industry, I'm sure we've all seen people. I had the conversation with somebody yesterday. They're here, they left, they've refound that, kindled a love of the industry in this case, but people leave, the sport. Oh, I got married, had kids,
Right, right,
it's
right.
like got out of it. And it's like, I mean, I've never left, like say, since like whatever age, I mean, 1985, however old I would have been. I mean, that started it. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's been a 40+ year obsession.
That's killer,
It's
man.
never, ever, ever left, and then to the point where I ended up, I mean, which we'll get into
All
on
right.
this, is like what I do for a living.
Mhm.
And I end up having that conversation with a lot of people. I'm like, man, I'm going to try to talk you out of working in the industry from a guy who couldn't imagine doing anything but working in the
Agreed,
industry,
man. Agreed.
So
Agreed.
It's funny. That's funny. So you're going from a kid riding with your dad and learning how to ride around the 4 acres. Take us into what it was like to get into your first races and cross that barrier.
well, I begged to get to go race.
Mhm.
TV always made it look like you could go the same speed as pro riders. It just slowed
Yeah.
it down, and I got a rude
Right.
awakening that my skill level wasn't so epic. I went to a track over in Casey, Illinois. Um, that that was my first ever race, and ironically, it's like I'm trying to work with them like right now to to bring in my company, Phoenix Handlebars, to be a part of that, because to me it's like it'll always have a soft spot in my heart, as that was the first place that I ever got on a line and felt that feeling that I think I'm going to puke all over my handlebars, before this gate drops, and I didn't race a lot because my family wasn't as into it. So we didn't get the chance to like, I didn't chase that racing
Right,
dream per
right, right.
se, through my high school years. And that didn't kind of come until after I left college.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that's crazy. Do you remember the first race?
Yeah. Yeah. I was team Levi Strauss. I had some really badass Ricky Johnson Alpine Star boots, but didn't own pants, like raced in jeans and mismatched
Yes.
jersey, and like all the typical
awesome.
first rider kind of stuff. I mean, wouldn't say we didn't have a lot of money. We lived okay. They just weren't gonna like blow their money like that on
Right,
buying me
right.
a bunch of stuff. They
Racing
again, they
fans.
weren't as into it. My family wasn't following this with me, so it was just I
Understandable.
decided try raising money and then see if I can like get my own cool gear. But yeah, it was pretty rad. Um, I can't remember what month it would have been, like what time of the year, because Midwest, you end up with like I think it was like early in the year, so I remember it being kind of like cold. But
Did you realize like what was it? You decided like that, is it because you were saying like your family wasn't all that super into it? So is that why the interest level kind of dropped a little bit as far as pursuing anything further with that?
with racing, yeah, with racing, because you're 16, you got to have somebody to go sign for you,
Right, right,
and
right.
we didn't, and I didn't know where stuff was, and again, keep bringing up the point, but pre-internet world, it's like, how was I to find stuff out? I didn't have a bunch of chums that
Right.
also like rode or
Oh,
raced.
right.
So it was kind of on me
Yeah.
to like, how do you research? Well, I was a dumb kid,
Right.
it's like all I did was just live in magazines. So I didn't know how to find out some of that other stuff. But I was just happy to go ride,
Yeah, yeah.
living out in the country. It was always easy enough to find a cornfield to go destroy and then get yelled at by a
That's
farmer for for roosting up their alfalfa hay, which also happens one time. But but yeah, so again, I didn't do much racing, just a lot of riding when I could. So
so you finish up riding, kind of growing up, get through high school, finish up college. You started working at Stoughton.
finishing college is loose.
All right.
I got accepted to Purdue.
Nice,
I
nice.
went to Purdue University, which is pretty, I mean, that's an accomplishment. I was
Absolutely.
happy
It's a
about
great school.
that.
Yep.
Um, and all the, and it was one of the greatest lessons that I ever had, man, because I plunked down, I still had to pay for that 1 year of school came out of, like out of my wallet.
Right, right.
And I was only there for a year and I just wasn't college material. And you kind of feel like, man, I'm a dullard, it's like, this isn't my thing. It's like, I'm glad I had the experience, but I just felt like I wasn't very smart. And, it's like,
Well, it's not for
I don't
everybody. I mean,
feel
school is not
right.
for everybody, and it's not. It doesn't make you smart or dumb. It just you took your talents elsewhere. A lot of people have done that. So you got
But
that
when you're
job.
18, you don't know that.
Right, right, of course.
Right.
So when you
Mhm.
got that
Yeah.
job at Stoughton Cycle Ranch, how old were you at that point?
So I started working during the summer after my freshman year of college. And then I
Okay.
get basically my walking papers. And so Wilma, so that store, obviously everything is always the tipping point.
Of
Like you wouldn't be
course.
where you are today
Of
if it weren't for
course.
like other stuff.
Yep.
That
Right.
particular store was such a badass store. Like say, like we were just an accessory shop. We did street, dirt, we did everything. And at that time, again, it would have been mail order days. So if you wanted to see anything cool, we were that shop that even the surrounding states kind of like people would come in from
Nice.
Illinois or maybe over from Illinois or from Ohio, wherever it might have been, just to see whatever the latest and greatest was. I mean, for instance, spy goggles when Jeremy McGrath like wore them, we all
Yep.
like, oh my God, I want to see them.
Gotta
You just
have
wanted
'em.
to put your eyeballs on them. And I remember we bought 100 black, 100 purple, and 100 blue. So we had 300 goggles. We thought, holy shit, like how have we, did we like empty their inventory? That's what it felt like back then. But we were a cool accessory store, and like I learned merchandising in there, and like, we cared about making stuff look cool. And then again, back then, it's like, I mean, a lot of motorcycle shops were just very utilitarian.
That's right.
Right. Like even like
Right.
a shop next door to us sold the units, and somebody would like load up their brand new rad CR 250 in the back of a pickup truck and drive 100 yards down the road and come to our store to buy pant, jersey, glove, helmet, boots, like all that stuff. Like, why didn't they just buy it at the store? Because the
Right.
store didn't carry
Right.
all that stuff. We did. And so here we are in kind of like on the outskirts of Indianapolis. Again, I get my walking papers from Purdue. I look to Wilma, she's the owner, and I'm like, can I stay on board? It's like, I'm not going back to school. But I kind of knew even at that age, I just love of wanting to learn the industry
Cool.
right off the bat. And our store was so cool. It's like, we got a lot of IndyCar drivers come through. We had just a lot of
Cool.
air quotes celebrities coming into this little shop in Indianapolis. And that told me like we were on to something. When we would have our Supercross would come to town, we'd have the Supercross party. We had the really cool party.
Cool.
So, and then when the Indy trade show came to town each year, a lot of those industry people would pop in to see our store because we probably were good accounts. We were a good account for them. So that was also that other part where, you like in hindsight, you go, I was already starting to meet like the industry bigwigs, if you will.
Right.
Back then. Now, mind you, I'm just a dumb 19-year-old kid who's just dusting off helmets and
Right.
and displaying. So I'm not going to pretend like I had some major ambition back then,
Right.
but it definitely shaped me. When you realize you're not going to be Damon Bradshaw, but there might be a chance that I could be Jim Hale, the owner of Axo kind of thing, or, one of those guys. I started looking at those industry players became like sort of heroes to me as well.
That's cool. To have influential people that early on in your life. That's a huge thing, man. A lot of people don't get that till later on.
Yeah.
So,
and some of that would have been was being from Indianapolis, being
right.
in Indiana, and the trade show coming to me. Like, how lucky did I get
Yeah. No question.
that happened?
Yeah.
If I would have been one state over, or maybe even like
Right.
in another town, I wouldn't have had that connection to some of these industry people that were coming into our store.
That's cool.
Yeah. So speaking of maybe lucky, maybe that had something to do with it, but Fox Racing came calling in 2000. How did that transpire? How did that happen? And what was that like moving out there from Indiana? And you remember your first day and all that?
Oh yeah. I remember everything about this. I still have my very first ever 1987 Fox catalog. So
Sweet.
at that shop, one of the guys that worked at our shop, his name was Ted Abden. He went on to, he was kind of like one of the mechanics where lead dudes. So he worked for Axo Racing. He had worked at the same shop as me and became an outside sales rep for Axo. So at the time, everybody in Stoughton Cycle we all wore Axo gear, except for yours truly. I was just always a Fox kid. Yeah, my heroes all wore Fox. I wanted to be a Fox guy. So fast forward, a lot of times people don't in the Midwest, they've all made the drive to Florida a bazillion times.
Right.
We all know that 15 plus hour drive down to your guys' neck of the woods. But rarely has anybody been west of Mississippi in the Midwest. It's like, at least back then, like you got as far as to what is it in St. Louis, the Arch.
The hardship.
Wow, I'm an idiot. Wow, I'm an idiot.
And
But I had made a move to Bozeman, Montana for a brief period. And that is what broke the seal. Like at that point, I was working at a shop there in Indiana, another shop, and a guy had told me, he was like, Jason, you can always come home. He's like you got a lot of friends trying to talk me out of making the move. But I was like, I was lost. I just worked in a motorcycle shop. I needed something else. So I moved to Montana and worked in a motorcycle shop. But I broke the seal.
Right. I mean, you took a chance to kind of see what else is out there, where a lot of people kind of stay in the town that they grew up in the rest of their life. Not that it's bad or good. I'm just saying it's nice. We all did that. Yeah, that's cool.
So I'm in Bozeman working at a shop called Team Bozeman. My old Fox rep from Indiana, his name's Joey Beher. We literally talk to Joey every day. Still calls me every day at 9:00. I had to tell him, I said, hey, I'm going to be on a podcast. Don't call today. He goes home at lunch. We still talk. And we talk moto every day.
That's cool.
And he was my Fox rep back in Indiana. And he says, hey, our inside sales rep named Jason Quintana was taking another job within Fox. He was like, you should move to California and become my inside sales rep. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'd
Oh,
never
that's
been to
very
California. You know, California to me is all LA, Hollywood,
Right.
you know,
Right.
like gangbanging and stuff like that. And so I started having a conversation with Jason, who's my inside sales rep, about doing it. And man, you want to talk about a crazy time. Like it would have been January of 2000. So we just come off of Y2K,
The
which
Y2K,
no greater
yeah.
place in the world.
Yep.
No greater place in the
Yep.
world to be than like among the militia of Montana people if shit was really going to go sideways.
Yep.
And
That's
Jason's
awesome.
like, yeah, he was like, here, let you talk to my boss, whose name's Phil Amendolia. Phil is the now president of LS2 Helmets. So he sends me over to him. Phil gives me I remember it being about a 5-minute phone call when he just kind of looked down, like, I don't even know if I had a true resume at that point, but he kind of saw that I had
Wow.
jumped around from shop to shop. And I said, well,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm like quitting these places or getting fired. It was just kind of like victim of circumstance. And this is how I got to where I'm at. And he says, well, we're looking for a 3-year commitment out of somebody coming here. And I was like, no problem. But I'm like, I've never been to California. I don't even own a cell phone at this point. Like I get into my pickup
Man.
truck with literally everything I own. Like this is one of those where it's even in my own mind. I'm like, so how the hell did you make it? Like you didn't know a soul. You were broke as a joke. You didn't have a cell phone. You got in and you just drove down it. And I got down here and, well, it would have been to NorCal. And that guy who brought me on, Jason Quintana, his sister worked over at Specialized Bicycles, which now all of a sudden I'm just still like, wait a minute. I'm going to walk through the doors of Fox Racing. And then he's sending me over to go talk to his sister who works at Specialized. Yeah, she needed a roommate. So already these places are like celebrity status right there, just walking through the doors of Fox or Specialized Bicycles. And I go over to Specialized and this chick walks out with spiky black hair, chain drive wallet, you know, looks like a punk rocker. And, you know, I just left Indiana/Montana, which is like going back in time.
Right.
And yeah. And so I ended up getting a job I ended up getting a room with her. And yeah. And then now I'm walking through the doors of Fox Racing like every day, like absolute
awesome.
dream.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So 12 years at Fox, I wore many hats, right? You did what? Sales, product development, some testing.
Yeah.
What was the one role that you enjoyed the most or really taught you the most about the industry?
Easily going up to become a product developer. I was inside sales for 7 years and was really long in the tooth and was getting grumpy. More lessons learned to what I do with MIJ. It's like when you know that you're getting grumpy, get out.
Right.
It's like you're a cancer, you know. And I got lucky. 2 guys came down, asked me if I wanted to become a product developer. I didn't even know what a product developer did, which is, again, why would you hire a guy that doesn't even know what a product developer does? Like they came down and grabbed me. So we use like little plastic key cards to go through the doors at Fox. Well, you don't need one to go anywhere downstairs, but your key card to get you upstairs was the design area. And so the day that my key card opened that door and let me walk through the doors of design and become a product developer was easily, I mean, walking through the doors of Fox was pretty badass, but I wouldn't have been able to start Phoenix Handlebars had it not for having been a product developer, because
Take us into the product development a little bit.
So
like the work that you were responsible with.
So obviously, like listening to So Good talk, you know, it was a walk down memory lane for me, because I was at Fox I left right before he came on.
Right.
And so kind of the beautiful part is they had given me gloves. So moto and bicycle gloves was my first product that I had ever developed. Again, mind you, I didn't know what a developer did. I knew they worked with the factory and I knew they talked to a designer, but I didn't really understand the synergy of all of it. And we had kind of a young team. And so one of the cool parts was they had taken us over to Asia. We all flew over as a team.
Sweet.
And And so again, I was only working on gloves, but we started in one factory and we did factory tours coming through. And to get to just see it,
That
how
had to
all
be cool.
products was made was an education. I mean, it was like, holy crap, I can't believe what I just got to see
Right.
and have an understanding of it. So,
Yeah.
and I apologize, sir. What was the question that you were asking?
Oh, just basically, kind of like after you did all that, with the development, you said that you love the development and the testing side. I just curious about like what taught you the most about the industry at that point in time, because you
Oh,
obviously continued, but you loved
yeah.
you said you were kind of stagnant in the sales part, then you went into the development side and you kind of found your passion again. What did that teach
Mhm.
you going now, like to take you a little bit further, like?
My first part is I forgot that I was creative. When I was young, I liked to draw.
Nice.
Um, and when you're a sales guy and you're a chatty Cathy like I am, I just assumed that I was a sales guy. But I don't like sales. I don't like having to close sales. And when I started working with product developing and working with designers, I realized I had a creative side that I had forgotten about. And even though I wasn't doing the design work, I was being included into those conversations,
Right.
and
Which is cool.
because I was a moto head, I mean, I could give you story after story after story. This would be a 15-hour podcast if I took you down like the path of like how much stuff just, shaped me. But
But the development
y-
side is really that what took you in, because it really
100%,
it
100%.
started to expand your mind even more on the creative side, which you love. So
But the cool part is most of the time when people are a salesperson, they're a salesperson and they stay within that role, right? They may work with
Right.
purchasing a little bit because of like, obviously there's a connection between right there, right? If you're a developer, you're kind of working with purchasing as well, but working with design. Well, given all the stuff that I had done, it was almost like I became this little liaison back to my own sales department to sometimes explain why, like if the red jersey didn't match the red pant, like, it's like the natural tendency is like, what a bunch of idiots. How did they not get this right? And it's like,
right.
okay, well, hold on, pump the brakes. I've been a developer. So now I'm speaking their language and I'm a trustworthy, like person who can be like, here's how that happens,
Right.
or like, it's like, and I knew how to like, I knew what purchasing had to deal with from looking at it from a product development standpoint, and looking at timelines. Whereas when you're sales and you're out of something, it's like, how did they screw up? Like, what a bunch of idiots. How hard is it to like order these gloves? And it's like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
Here's how that maybe kind of got screwed up, and how challenging it can be. And so it just gave me like, I felt like I had this full circle insight now to how everything from, just the ideation stage starts. Like when you're like, this team's got to try to figure out what's going to be hot 2 years from now,
Yeah.
Right.
and coming up with that
Jason, let me ask you this,
and
man.
then bringing it to,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead. My apologies.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna quickly just ask before Ben went to the next thing. Do you think, like looking back, and I mean, we're gonna reflect a little bit later on in the show, but I did want to ask you, do you think that like had you not got this job with Fox, that your company Phoenix and the things that you've done would be the same as they are now, or do you think that Fox really brought that out of you?
Oh yeah. I flunked out at Purdue, but I like graduated from the University of Fox Racing for sure.
Killer. All right.
You
Thanks
know.
for answering that. I was just wondering.
That's cool. So, so after Fox, you went on to work with different brands. How did working with those different companies kind of shape your understanding of branding, and what kept you excited about it throughout that process, throughout that stage?
I living in the Silicon Valley was what kind of got me like mind you, remember, country kid from Indiana, now I live in the Silicon Valley, right? I mean, up there where Apple is,
Yeah.
Google, Netflix, right? Like just countless like brands that we all use in our everyday life. And so I kind of got walked out of Purdue. Didn't see myself as a guy who loved like school, but there was a guy from Fox who's still in the industry, Chip Jones, and he read books over at the gym. And next thing I know, man, I've had a love of like reading books. I kind of got into the whole Steve Jobs and all that kind of stuff. So I after I left Fox, I go to a little place called Hammerhead Design. So we did like shift levers and brake pedals. But so now I went from being a cog in the machine at Fox to now I'm like one of 6 people in a little small place.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that I was getting educated at Fox University about, that you don't realize that you're getting an education about, comes pouring out when you're in a small company, because all of a sudden now I'm wearing all these hats and I'm drawing on the things like, well, at Fox, we would do this sort of product developing, it's like, and it's not to say that John, the owner of there, was not doing a good job. It's just that I brought in a knowledge that I didn't realize I had from all those years at Fox. Everything from like, now I'm like on Photoshop or Illustrator and I'm doing design work.
No shit.
I'm not a designer. But I'm starting to do design work, right? I'm doing photography. I wasn't a trained photographer, but I was doing sales. And so we're all wearing all these hats. So as you can imagine, this starts to build up your confidence, and that whole Silicon Valley thing has me going, that's what got my entrepreneur spirit going. Indiana's a very blue collar state, right? It's like I was taught, you get a trades job, go work someplace and retire. But the Silicon Valley, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're so right. I think it's a huge lesson for people out there also in regards to like, a lot of times kids get jobs out of school or whatever with these large organizations, right? And in large organizations, everything is isolated, meaning if you're hired for this is what you're working on. More people need to experience what you were just talking about going into a smaller company and wearing the different hats and understanding what everything evolves around building a small business. And that sounds like exactly what happened to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was, so my son was born in Los Gatos, and we used to drive by Netflix, the Netflix building. And mind you, this would have been around the time that they were still sending out DVDs.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it was starting to like flip to streaming around that time, 2010. You'd have to check my work, but I just remember thinking, what the holy hell is going on in that building? Because like, how much did Blockbuster and Hollywood Video all think, that's a stupid business model. You're going to send out a DVD. And that's all I kept thinking, was just this insight. Every time we would drive over to go to my son's, like we'd go like every year, prenatal meetings. I would drive by that Netflix and go, I want to know what's going on in there. Like what stuff are they conjuring up? Not realizing that they were going to arguably take over the world with this kind of stuff. And that's what always drove me to be like, how is that stuff applicable to a little moto industry? Right. It's like, I didn't want to be like everybody else. I always thought, I want to be like somebody who like disrupts like these guys do.
Yep.
Yep.
So 2016 comes along, man. You take everything you learned and you kind of branch out on your own, started Phoenix Handlebars. Number one, what pushed you to take that leap of faith and create something of your own?
Like, it was funny listening to Sergey's like podcast with you, because he went to Fox. Yeah. Mind you, I was there before he was. Then I left. Then he left. I ended up I had to move down here to SoCal. My wife, ex-wife and I had divorced. She was Pete Fox's assistant. So she had moved down here to like work at this office. I needed to get down and be a, more present dad, because I was flying back and forth every month.
Right.
Well, there ended up becoming a job for a brand manager for MSR Hard Parts, which was at the time was owned by Tucker Rocky, which again, the whole good thing is after I left, he came in. So it was like we were Like I
Just
would leave,
missing
he'd
each other,
come,
yeah?
I'd leave,
Do
he'd
you do
come.
you
Yeah,
know
we
him?
just missed each
Do
other.
you know him?
No,
Oh, okay.
we'd never crossed paths. That's what was fun to
that's
like listen
crazy.
to. I mean, I've heard his name, of course, him and his brother, and know a
Right.
lot about him, but it was, we just never got a chance to cross paths. So from my hammerhead days, because I dealt with hard parts, it put me in a position of like feeling pretty comfortable becoming this regional salesman. I mean, not a regional, the brand manager for MSR hard parts. MSR is 3 little letters. There's a ton of like 3-letter acronyms in this industry, right? FMF,
Mhm.
HAC,
Right.
KTM, and there was MSR. Well, hey, there it is right there. It stood for something. It stood for Malcolm
Yeah.
Smith Racing. And the man is still alive, and he's a goddamn legend. And I was like, and I didn't I won't say that I was the one who like kind of came up with like that we needed to bring it back in, but I felt like I was a driving force for saying, yeah, let's not make it another 3-letter acronym. Let's make it say Malcolm Smith Racing and bring in what Malcolm stood for, which was a love of riding motorcycles and having fun,
Right.
racing,
Mhm.
riding, whatever it was. So we were in the same building. It was Answer, MSR, and there's Pro Taper Handlebars. Well, I was taking a Pro Taper bar and I was turning it into, sorry, I got a cat here that wants
Okay.
to jump into the mix. And
Hmm.
I was doing a takedown of a Pro Taper handlebar to make it a MSR branded bar. All at the same time, I was trying to create this like kind of cool vibe for a company that was, for a brand, MSR, that had kind of was a redheaded stepchild of Tucker.
Mhm.
Made a lot of money, great margin, but nobody really paid it much attention. So I was always kind of proud of the fact that we were trying to bring up the imagery, the coolness, and again, make it stand for something.
Mhm.
Well, at that time was like when the MAG, Motorsports Accessories Group, I think, and they owned a bunch of, they were working with Alias and White Brothers and all that stuff. So, hold on, you gotta go, buddy. Sorry.
You can put him on with you.
I saw The Godfather. He had a cat at the beginning of The Godfather.
Yeah,
So
he
did
was.
Dr. Evil.
Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
Mr. Bigglesworth.
And so anyway, I felt like the brand ended up becoming a line on a spreadsheet that needed to go away, and they killed the brand. And so the first time in my life, I'm unemployed. They said, "Hey, you're not fired, but we don't have a job for you." And I'm like, "Well, that sounds like fired."
Right.
So I'm
You're
unemployed.
right.
And sitting like on the couch. And that is when I wanted to keep like that spirit of what I was trying to build with MSR, Malcolm Smith Racing, alive. And that was to create a brand that had a little aspiration to it, not just being merely hard parts for the sake of hard parts. And I had ordered at the time, MAG owned Pro Taper and Renthal. We were all in the same, it was kind of like Coke and Pepsi being at the same
Right.
table. And I had ordered a set of mountain bike bars from Renthal for myself. And they had a really simple way of being able to do it. And I thought, well, why couldn't we do that for moto? They're doing it on the bicycle side of business. Why couldn't it be for moto?
Right.
And that's like
When you say a simple way of doing it, do you mean as far as manufacturing practices or
I'm sorry.
design?
Yeah, less options. Like motorcycle handlebars have
Gotcha.
lots of options, different widths,
Streamlined,
different
yeah.
heights, different bends, and they're all, even in odd numbers, and you're making motors,
Right.
you're making dirt bikers do
Okay.
math that doesn't need to be
Yeah.
there. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, those brands will always be great brands, but maybe there's a place for us to like simplify this method down and be able to speak to people who are like, I don't know where to start.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and so, yeah, it was trying to name a company is not always easy, and my son's name was Phoenix, so that's where the name came from. And again, like working for Fox Racing, that logo is a little iconic, right? So people know the Fox logo
Right.
pretty easily, Apple, Nike,
Yeah.
obviously these are all. So a friend of mine was a graphic designer from Vox, and I said, "Could you work on something like this?" And the most cliche thing
nice.
is their most cliche thing is obviously the Firebird and
The
everybody's
Phoenix, yeah.
And I'm like, I
Right.
just don't want it to be cliche. And so the day that logo
It's killer.
landed
Yeah,
like
it's a
on my
sweet logo.
computer
Killer.
was that day that I just went, oh my God, it's born. You know, it's like I could see it on bars.
So
I could
awesome.
see it on a hat, a t-shirt. I could see it anywhere. And I felt like it was something that I was instantly proud of. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that answered my next question, but to take it a step further, what was your vision for Phoenix Handlebars? What feeling did you want to instill when people encountered your brand?
I mean, I always said I wanted to be more than handlebars, and by being more than handlebars didn't mean more products. It's like I've been given that life of, you know, my mom let me like place an order in the mail order days for a set of Fox gloves, right? So I had to call in, talk to like some chick like on the phone. When those like
Right.
gloves arrived, they probably showed up like in just a plastic bag, you know, 1987. But it was an awesome feeling.
Absolutely.
And I think like, you know, in this Amazon world we live in, like we all have like boxes show up on our doorstep every day, and we kind of take it for granted.
Yeah.
And this will sound maybe a little bit over the top, but this is like honest God truth was like, I wanted people to like, when you ordered a utilitarian piece that you absolutely have to have for your bike to ride it, set of handlebars, I want when that box that shows up. So Phoenix and I screen print the logo on the outside of the box. Like I don't farm it out. I sit my fat ass out there on the, you know, outside, and we work and we screen print it.
That's fucking cool.
Oh,
man.
it's a pain.
Awesome.
It's a
cool.
pain.
Yeah,
It
but
hurts. I have to have his help because it hurts my back. I was like, son, I need your help.
How old
But
is
the
he
thing
now?
is 14.
14. Nice. Go ahead. Continue,
14.
sorry.
Yeah. And so like in the beginning stages, you know, my wife like helped, like, how do we package this? How do we make it look cool? How do we make people feel like they got something more than
That's
just a
right.
set of handlebars
That's right.
and grips and t-shirt, right? So the way that it's all packaged and it has like a little gold emblem, but again, it's kind of was started off as like arts and crafts hour, you know, to like get it there. But when you ask like, what was that feeling supposed to, you know, be like, it was like, and I'm getting it because people will Instagram story themselves opening up a box from Phoenix Handlebars, showing the little gold thing, and they tell me they feel like they won an award. And my thought is like, if you're excited that your bars showed up this weekend and you couldn't wait to crack open your box, it means you're like also excited about like hopefully getting them on your bike, which means you're going to be excited about going to the tractor this weekend or trail and pay your money and go through and go moto. Versus like, hey, my bars came from Moto World, and you pull them out, there they are, set them like off to the wayside. It's like, cool, I need to put those on, but shit, I got other stuff going on. We'll do it next week. So if I've created an excitement, like the day that it showed up on your goddamn doorstep, then I've done my job, you know, and that's what I always
People are
wanted.
excited to talk about it. Yeah.
That covers that feeling. But now I'm going to ask you something. When it comes to actually building the products, right? What is your process like? Number one, and there are certain details you focus on to make each handlebar feel different, or take us a little bit through the product side, the development side of the bars that your company does.
Like, it initially started as kind of calling it In-N-Out burger of handlebars, you know, like just keeping it very simple. Like, it's not, I mean, I called it Phoenix Handlebars, you know, for the reason of like working in the word handlebars, you know what we sell from the name, right? Now, you may not know if they're mountain bike, you know, Harley Davidson, you know, I get all that. But part of the thing is like, hey, I want to be part of the control group all the way. I don't, you know, Renthal has chain and sprockets, so does Pro Taper, so does Maker Metals. And it's like, and they all venture into other like avenues. And I'm like, no, man, be In-N-Out burger, be focused like on just the control group. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of opportunity to like grow it right there. So the focus was always just be handlebars. And if anybody's ever spent any time like trying to shop handlebars, you'll see it's often confusing.
Very.
There's a ton of different bends. And again, what is width? What is height? What is rise? What is sweep? What do they all mean to me? And like, okay, this one's 78, but this one here is 94. That's easy math, but it's still going to take you a second. Whereas like I tried to work off of even increments for starters. So it was going to be like, there's 4 height options, bars height. This is a 70, then it goes up 10 millimeters to 80, 90, 100. If I told you like, hey, this is 100 and this is an 80, I go ask you like what the difference is. You're going to go, that's 2 centimeters. It's about that much.
Right.
It's like, it's way more intuitive. It's quick. And if you're a type of rider that you can feel the minutia of 2 or 3 millimeters, good on you. Like you should look at Pro Tape or Renthal or one of the other brands. It's like, but I don't believe that you're not going to need that. So the development side of stuff was, I already had relationships with factories, and we sell a trust product. I've got to lay my head down on the pillow at night knowing that I've kept everybody safe. Absolutely. And we have supercross riders. I mean, imagine in this Alibaba world that we live in, where people can just be like, I'm going to take a motorcycle handlebar and just slam their logo on it. What if like you're putting somebody like, some like little Billy or Susie at risk,
That's
like out
right,
in,
man.
St. Pete, like Florida, and they get impaled. I can't live with that. Right. So
Absolutely.
Made overseas, sure, but made from a reputable, factory that I knew that I could trust.
Right.
Yes. And how did I get that? Because it's like 4 years of being a product developer at Fox Racing.
That's right.
Now I understand how to I couldn't have done this without having been to a factory and feeling comfortable and knowing what questions to ask and what MOQs meant, and and how to what's FOB and how to import stuff. So again, everything just became a culmination of all this stuff that I've learned.
Right.
Allowed me to start Phoenix Handlebars.
Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, One Gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical-grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the U.S. for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a Butt Buffer for every rider's style. Get your Butt Buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered.
Jason, can I ask you a quick question on a follow up on this thing? One is, between the different numbers, is there a better seller? Like, which is the best seller? Which height is the best seller? Number one. And number two is, when you did your product development at Fox, is that how kind of you based your product for Phoenix, as far as the type of things that you wanted?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, everything's always for me is got Fox DNA in it. Everything.
Right.
Your one bestseller where I screwed myself, and I'm okay with this, is other handlebars are all these obscure bends. I mean, and they've got a bestseller as well. But the way that I've done it with the 70, 80, 90, 100 is almost like I've created a size run, like for t-shirts,
Right.
where if you're a size large
Small,
shirt,
medium, large.
right, you're going to be and if I'm out of it, if I'm out of a large, you're like, well, I can't squeeze into a medium, and a extra large is going to look
Too
like
big,
a 10th on
right,
me. So I
right.
guess they're out of it. So we called our bends in the early stages, be 70, 80, 90, or 100. And the middle, 80 and 90, ended up becoming our medium and large bestsellers.
Bestsellers, got it.
So if I was out of an 80, and as we started becoming more popular, I couldn't keep up with inventory and, cash flow and all that stuff. And I was selling out of stuff faster than what I was anticipating. But, and again, down back to the Fox stuff, I understand how to I understand the process of placing an order with a factory. It's not as easy this goes back to like when we were sales at Fox, and it's like, how did we screw up and not add this?
Right.
Because it's not, you've got MOQs to meet. You have certain product requirements that you, like, if we're out of like one glove and a medium, you can't just order 20,000 mediums. Like, no, man, they're not gonna kick up the assembly line unless they can do a size run. Well, we don't need all of them. We just need medium. Well, fast forward to me doing Phoenix Handlebars. Now I'm out of 80s, and I'm like, oh shoot. Now I'm trying to play catch up as well. So a lot of stuff there to learn.
Jason, for people who may not know or listening to this podcast and they have dirt bikes, they want to try your bars, can you give them the measurements like 70, 80, 90, and 100? What does that mean for somebody who may not know?
Sure. One of the other things is that we ended up putting together was we call it the True Ride Bend Selector, which was essentially as a quiz, which was so awesome that this stuff exists because it kind of says, hey, Serge, like, let's go through and ask questions like to you. So you're getting a bar that you need, not just merely what a pro rider needs. It's like, because a lot of times people don't understand, well, what does width mean? What does height mean? It's like, there's kind of a natural tendency to believe that if you're a short rider, like Florida's Ricky Carmichael, you need a low bar. But if you're a tall guy, you need a taller bar because you're up higher. Yeah. I've got a guy who rides hard enduro, he's not going fast. He's 6'2". He rides my lowest bar. His name's Quinn Wenzel. He's a pro level rider and he's on the lowest bar. Why? He's 6'2". Well, he's not going fast. He's like climbing over like boulders and logs and stuff like that. So one of the things that was really important to me was when you type in phoenixhandlebars.com, I want to answer the question, what bar do you need? That was always that was always our thing.
Right.
And we still, if you go to there today, it still has a lot of work to go. But like handlebars are an important part of what we do. And again, everybody's got different riding styles.
That's right.
It's kind of like a natural tendency to get on and see like, well, what's my favorite pro rider run?
Right.
Or like, well, what do you suggest? And it's like, well, I really like this bar. And it's like, okay, well, that sounds sick. I'm going to try it. But that might be the right bar for you. Right. So let us like help answer that. So another important part is like, if you get on the website, there's no sales at Phoenix Handlebars. It's Jason at, or Kyle at, Miles at. Our guys I want names. I want names so people like feel like they're there. And there's a phone number. Call that damn phone number if you like want me to help guide you through. And I'm going to tell you, man, I have gotten on Renthal Pro Tapers websites more times than you can count and helped find them the bar that they needed, that they wanted. And it wasn't a Phoenix Handlebars, because at the end of the day, my job is to keep you riding dirt bikes and having fun.
That's awesome, buddy.
And that's the truth.
Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, that's killer.
Yes, sir.
So when you first started selling, where did you experience the most success as far as platforms go? Were you selling, were you finding that it was local? Were you having more success with the website? How did that transpire?
We have gone direct. I have not bothered too many dealers. I've not gone aggressive on dealers. One of my close friends is Robin Hartfell, who's the editor of Dealer News magazine. And he's been super kind about like trying to help push us out to the dealer channel.
That's awesome.
But I've not pressed hard for dealers, because when you're an unknown entity and I'm going up against Coke and Pepsi, and the sad reality is, and obviously we'll get to my MIJ side of my life, is that dealers far too often just put stuff on the wall and hope it sells. And unless I've got somebody in that store who has a love of, who will drag somebody out and show them this bar and, hey, like, check this out. Here's like a new bar. Here's an easier way to like think about doing it. I'm afraid those bars are just going to sit on the wall and collect dust.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So rider support has kept us alive for sure. Right. Like we reached out to MX Sponsor. I've known Rich over there. He does some cool stuff. It's a slippery slope when you discount. And I've always tried to create a brand that would stand on its own.
Yeah.
We don't, Black Friday's coming up. There's not a Phoenix Handlebars Black Friday special. A, I don't have enough products. And B, I don't want to devalue a brand that I spend so much time like, I
Right.
offered a fair price and try to take care of people.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's been writer support and obviously people dealing direct with us. And we're very picky about writer support.
Gotcha.
Like I grew up in a period when you got a discount. My guy Kyle that works for me, we tell him, it's like, if you become a writer support sponsored writer, you are marketing. You are an extension of our marketing department. Your job, I didn't sell you this as a revenue stream, although it is, but I sold it to you at a discount because it's your job to help get people to understand, well, why do, when one of your buddies goes, why do you have Phoenix Handlebars on your bike? It can't be because I got a smoking deal. It's like, no, right? It's like, no, man. It's like, so go to our website, take that True Ride bin selector quiz and go, holy shit, that was really easy. They helped me. So now you're able to communicate that on. And that's why we don't have a ton of writer support people because we want the right ones. And there's a lot of brands that I know are desperate. And so they're slutting their brands out just to be like, shit, dude, we just need money.
Big time.
So the beautiful part of being small is that we don't have a lot of overhead, which means, hey man, I'd rather slow play it and be here for the long haul.
That's right.
No,
absolutely right. So on top of running Phoenix, you're also working as a business development manager at motorcycle industry jobs. What brought you to MIJ and how did you connect with Alex Balin, who's the founder of MIJ?
Yeah. So after MSR, I started working for Bonnier, which is they own like Field and Stream, Working Mother, but in the motorcycle world, they own Motorcyclist, Cycle World, Dirt Rider, Baggers, right? All these kind of Hot Bike,
right? Huge
owned all these cool brands. Yep. Yeah, huge. Yeah, and you being a V-twin guy, you're obviously super familiar with that.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, 2017, 18, whatever year it was, whatever year that was, the moto industry was in sort of bad shape and the print media world was in worse shape. I was only there for 6 months and we went from 7 print titles down to 3 in 6 months. And even the ones that were left standing, like Cycle World, went from, was 12 months down to 6, to it was a quarterly.
That's right. Right.
Right.
I remember that, man.
Everything was just, oh man, it was, so we had a sort of a bloodbath day where the then president, Andy Leisner, let a bunch of us go, including that day. So here's the second time in my life I've been let go from a company, all within like an 8-month period. I've been let go twice, right? And much like the first one, this one here was like hugs on the way out. It wasn't like, wow, Jay, you're a really shitty worker.
Right,
it was just like, I'm
Right.
so sorry.
So sorry.
Like,
We can't keep
Jeff Holt from V-Twin Visionary, like it was me, him, like it was, it wasn't, again, it was a good group of people that we got let go. Robin Hartfell from Dealer News, the guy I was just telling you about, goes, hey, Jay, you should contact Alex Balin. He needs somebody to help him with motorcycle industry jobs. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't sound fun. I had heard about Alex through years, but I had never met him. And I went down to his Carlsbad office and he knew all about Phoenix Handlebars. And he says, hey, here's a great opportunity. I need just, he'd been around for, this was our 20th anniversary. So this year, so we'll call it like 15, 16 years or so. We have 15 years in business. But we had a lot of dealers posting at the time, but not necessarily a lot of like aftermarket companies and OEMs. They had over the years, but they weren't, at that point, they weren't really posting with regularity. And so I came on board and started just trying to like connect with dealers and whatnot. And bringing on some of these, again, the aftermarket companies onto the brand. And while I wasn't sure that, it wasn't something that I was like in love with doing, but I kind of was like, it was helping pay bills. And
sure.
And well, obviously, I'm sure you ask these questions, but I'll just say that it went from like being something to do, like in the interim was growing Phoenix Handlebars. So like I now call it a passion project.
Yeah, man.
Like
Hmm.
as we talked about, Serge, about like you don't get a Phoenix Handlebars conversation without an MIJ conversation and vice versa, because one hand washes another in this case. So
You call it a passion project. What is it like working, motorcycle industry jobs all about placing, industry jobs with companies. What is it like working with those companies, and how do you find them to market your services to?
Roughly there's what, 8,000 dealers like right now, and sadly dropping. Like, I mean, I think we were at 10,000-ish, like when we started. We've lost a lot of dealers. So they are our bread and butter, right? They're the bread and butter of MIJ. And I always hate to say it like this, but I said, we're just a job board. I'm not a recruiter, although I feel like I play about 75% of that role. Like, people call me all the time asking for help. And I'm glad to be that, because because this is where the passion project comes in. It's like, I want good people in any of these companies that share the same love and passion of motorcycling,
That's
like
right.
the two of you guys do, to do this. Because, I've seen it from my days at Tucker and Mag, when somebody in a room, like on a spreadsheet, like took MSR hard parts and said, we should delete that brand. And I went, what? Like an iconic brand that was making good margin and good money, I got clipped. I'm like, holy shit, how did that happen?
Right.
Like, what non-motorcycle related person made that choice? Because I don't think like anybody would have like really done that if they really understood MSR and all that stuff. It's like, no,
Right.
no. So so as far as going out and finding business, I mean, there's 8,000 dealers, and with turnover, this is the hard part. It's like, I'm only one person, so I'm trying like crazy, because Alex, the guy that owns it, and this is obviously, we talked about, he's a regional sales manager for Western Power Sports. And sometimes I try to keep him kind of, I mean, obviously this podcast is going to go out and people know it, but there's just, it's like, hey, he's been focused like on WPS. And truthfully, he's been on that the entire time that I've been with him. He is so very hands off with the company that he started, because he's buried with that, he trusts me enough to run his company.
I was going to
Is
say,
why I love him to
you-
death.
Yeah. I mean, you are the phone calls, you are the emails, you are everything with it.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so, and it's a bummer. And it's part of the reason, like when you and I spoke, I'm like, he's not going to have the insight to his own company like I've got. It's like, I am the one taking, like, I mean, I'm the one who, like, I answer his LinkedIn. It's like, I'm always like, hey, you should talk to Jay. Like when people ask stuff, because I want to make sure they keep. But the beautiful part is it gives me an insight to what's going on with WPS, which also gives me insight to what's happening with Turn 14 and Parts 11. And that's where I often say I have a finger on the pulse of a lot of what's happening within this industry, because of all the stuff that comes at me. And I couldn't be making certain decisions for Phoenix Handlebars if it weren't for that knowledge.
That's right.
Right.
But then I'm able to like spin that too. Like when I'm talking to somebody and I tell them that I own Phoenix Handlebars, I said, gee, you have to understand. I said, it only behooves me to keep you, Mr. Dealer or employer, moving in a positive light forward, because if you're in yet another store that closes its doors, then that's that many less people riding motorcycles, which means that's that many less people with the potential to buy a set of handlebars and grips from me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
So that's my little ecosystem, and why I call it a passion project, and why I'm like, man, I will do everything in my goddamn power to make sure that I try to help keep good people in these roles.
Amen, brother.
That makes sense.
It's crazy. I've been in this thing for over 20 years, and from the peaks. And now I am seeing so many dealerships closing up, like influential dealerships that have been landmarks in certain communities for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. So this kind of leads me into the next question is, from where you sit now, what trends are you noticing with job openings and the kind of skills companies are looking for these days? Because we have a young generations coming up, and as I told you, and I tell everybody that that I chat with before we get them on the podcast, our whole vision is to find the next generation to hold the torch and pass it on, as we're going to doing here with education reasons. So what are you noticing as far as job openings and the skills that these companies, these large franchises, small businesses are looking for?
Well, if we're talking dealers, I feel like dealers are just desperate for good people. Service technicians is, of course, easily
What
the
makes
most
good
important
people?
piece.
What you have
Yeah.
conversations with
Well,
decision makers. What makes good people that they're looking for?
I don't think they always love what I like. My part is like I'm like, you can't breed in passion. You can't teach that, and I know it's so easy. It's so cliche for people that, because people reach out to me all the time and they're like, I'm passionate about moto and I want to work for Yamaha. I've been a huge Yamaha fan for my whole life. And I was like, that's awesome. Don't lead with that in an interview because that'll just make you sound like a fanboy.
Right.
And they're not going to
Yeah.
and unfortunately it's not going to that's not going to be necessarily what you want. But when it comes to on the dealer side, I think that's hugely important that these people want to be there. It's like, man, I'm like, who gives a shit? If they don't have certain level of skills, if they have a love for wanting to be in there, that energy is going to hopefully breed into the customer that's walking in, which is of course a passionate customer, and it's like, man, I want somebody that wants to talk with me about moto or, talk about tires like the good old days. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we're seeing it's different these days. Some of the kids and stuff that work behind the counter, they're not so ambitious about coming out from behind the counter. Goes back to my Phoenix Handlebars thing of going, yeah, I don't just want to be in every dealer for fear that the product's just going to collect dust. So I tell dealers we have individual postings that you can do for 30 days looking for somebody, and we have plans that are unlimited job postings for the year. And I've made people smoke in deals because I'm trying to encourage dealers to be in the habit of always be looking, because it's not easy to find, as we say all the time. It's like, you're not going to find your perfect mate on match.com in 30 days. And you looking for somebody who matches, say that your guys is in-store synergy, it might take longer than 30 days too. So you always be looking, and the fact is that next best hire probably is already a customer. They're walking through your door. They're Jason Gearld walking in the door of Stoughton Cycle, and eventually they flunk out of Purdue, and then bam, you get this, So again, I don't think I really totally answered your question there, Serge, but
No, you did. You
dealers are the lifeblood of what it is that we need right now. I mean, there are things that are changing, but if you were to ask me, it's like, man, you pick up anybody who shows an ounce of excitement and enthusiasm. We already know we don't make a ton of money doing what it is we do. Right. So if they're willing to come in there for a love of moto, then try to get them and hold on to that, man. So,
yeah. Jason, in your opinion, what could the industry do better to make it easier for people to get the right training and guidance to pursue a career in the motorcycle industry?
I mean, I think it's just a leadership thing, really. It's for me, I guess I just use my own thing. It's I'm not college educated. It became my love of wanting to work in a store. I learned merchandising and a lot of that stuff just from being in a store. I mean, I'm always encouraging people, because a lot of people want to skip over the retail side and then go straight to working for Vance and Hines so that they can, do a bitch and marketing role. And I'm like, how about you kind of doing this route? Of course, it gets harder as you get older and you want to do that. I get that part. But I'm always encouraging people to go through the dealer. I think it's such a great place to never forget who we're selling to, no matter how far down the path we get, even if you become the owner of a handlebar company, who are you selling to? To the person who like still is there. Yeah, geeked out, like, getting like on websites all the time. So I feel like the best avenue is always pushing people through dealers and remembering why we do it.
Nice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. So look into the future. What are your hopes for the motorcycle industry and where it's heading? And any
I
advice?
hope.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I hope every like one of these goddamn VC companies goes away. I'm tired of seeing. I'm tired of seeing great companies like, just getting caught up into that. It's like, but I mean, I get that sometimes maybe the owners are tired. It's like I've said, many times, I'm like, I'll burn this to the ground before I let somebody else like take it away from us, kind of thing. I'll give it away. But easier said than done, but it was, like right now, I feel like, there's been a lot of companies that have lost their way, lost their culture. I guess like have a little bit when I see how many Harley stores have closed lately.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
And I'm kind of hopeful that, everything just comes back down to a cool core culture. I know that sounds so cliche to be like that, but it's like, we were cool before. We'll always be cool. Were we cooler with 100,000 square foot, superstores? I don't think so. Did it get to be too much? Like,
dude, I agree with you 100% what you're saying. And that's why I think that's where the motorcycle industry lost itself. And here's my example to this. I'm going to speak strictly from the Harley Davidson world, because that's the world I grew up in. I remember not only up north in Boston, but even in Florida when I moved down here back in 98, that the Harley Davidson stores, anywhere you went, always felt family atmosphere, group. You were part of something. This was a fantastic journey to be to, because now you're coming into not only people who are working there that love what they do, but in addition to a community where everybody meets. Okay, that was the difference between going to a Honda, vehicle store, like, a car store, and a motorcycle shop is a dealership, crazy ass salespeople chasing you around and bugging you, to coming into more of a family relaxed atmosphere. And what happened was as Harley started to choose their small group of dealers that were buying up all the smaller dealerships, and now all of a sudden they're turning everything into this corporate hardcore where you walk in and it's fucking people are, hey, can I help you? What do you want to, what are you looking at? It's in it. You almost feel like you're buying a car and no longer a motorcycle. And I think that's totally hurt us. And because motorcycles aren't for everybody, the 50-50, right? 50 people ride, 50 people don't ride. So my opinion is that we got away from the passion of motorcycles, and now we're feeding people that hardcore business, the hardcore sales, the hardcore 1% ownership. Here, man, buy. And I think that's what hurt us.
Yeah.
That's my opinion anyway. I don't know. Could be full of shit.
Yeah, even if we're a little bit wrong, I mean, actually, I think like what we don't have to look real far to see like how things are going like right now and go like, why? It's like, I mean, again, I feel like just things have gotten just so big. I mean, even
so big.
My beloved Fox Racing is no longer owned by Fox. They just sold yet again.
Yep.
And Bell Helmets, which had went into obscurity, like, from our era, like when it was the helmet, then it came back, and now it's like, well, man, what's going to happen now with yet a second buyout,
right?
Troy Lee Designs, who had gotten purchased. I don't know how all that plays out. I would be ignorant to speak too much of it, but I also know that Troy Lee and he did have a partner, it sounds like, but still Troy's back involved with the company that he was a part of. And from my contacts over there seems to be a synergy, and people are like stoked about it. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that people are stoked with these brands. And so I guess like part of my thing has been like, I think that we're going to right some wrongs. I think we're going to shrink, but I mean, there's still a shit ton of dollars to be made. There's
Huge.
still one of my things, one of
Yeah.
my things that I've been most happy about is the participation still seems to be really, really good, right? If you go to a local motocross race, there's getting to be like the mini Olympics is in Gainesville, like here in the next like week or so. Yeah, next week, like in your neck of the woods. And I've already heard about a ton of people who are going to be there. We've got Day in the Dirt off-road event here. I never heard what the Sturgis numbers were, but I believe they were pretty darn good this year.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
It seems like, I don't know if Carrie Hart's still doing all this good ride stuff, but I mean, I know participation's been really good. And that's still the part where I'm like, people are riding. They're just not necessarily buying a lot, but they're still riding their motorcycles and they're participating and they're doing events. And I'm like, that's still good for us.
I think a lot has to do with the prices of bikes these days, in addition to, I mean, I get everything's gone up. I mean, it's hard to come in somewhere and have to buy a motorcycle. I mean, look at just the prices. I mean, I don't know too much about the motocross world like you do. That's where you're good. My strength lies more in the street world. And I mean, my goodness, most of these people who walk in and do that impulse buy, they are so upside down in their motorcycles. It's insanity, and I think that scared a lot of people off with just that. But let me ask you this. Last question before we get into the speed round. Any advice for the next generation of riders or industry pros that knowing what you know from both running a small business and in addition to doing placements and finding jobs and helping companies find people, what advice would you give the next generation that love the two-wheel world?
I mean, I think like just to not have an expectation that it's gonna be like massive, it's like I think like just keep it fun and core. And I know that is such a cliche thing to say, but there's just, to me, it's like, why are you getting into it? I mean, we've heard this like for decades. It's like, man, it's like, well, I want to get into motorcycle because it's fun. It's like, well, on my MIJ side of things, I tell people all the time, I said, here's our pitfalls. It's like, you're gonna work long hours, you're gonna have an obscure job title, that's, because you're gonna wear a lot of hats and you're not gonna make a lot of money. And if you can accept all that as part of the charm of what it is that we do, it's goddamn awesome. It's like, it's better than like working a real job.
That's right.
Now, it's when people start to get grumpy and think that everything's going to be ran, like a well-oiled machine. It's like, it ain't. We're a bunch of dumb like motorcyclists, whether you're a Harley guy, road racer, dirt biker, or riding scooters. It's like, man, and it's okay. It's okay. It's all messy. My wife works for Boston Scientific, massive corporation.
Massive.
All the same stupid, like, problems like a company like us has, but, dealing with medical stuff. So I'd much rather be here and just accept that it's cool, but like, we're a little bit messy because I beat myself up for a lot of the stuff that I'm not good at. But then I take that step back and go, so's everybody else.
That's right. That's right.
Nobody's like as dialed as they are. And I feel like if you accept that, just keep plugging forward and just like, we see far too often that people lose a love of writing or somewhere along the lines. And that always makes me sad because, as I've said, not me.
Great advice, buddy. Great advice.
Solid.
All right, man. You
All
made
right,
it
man.
this far. Last round here.
I'd like to thank you two suckers made it this far.
No, man, this is great, man.
You
This
guys
is
didn't
great.
hang up.
No, not at
good.
all.
Yeah,
Man.
right.
I enjoyed this. I love talking to people who
Rad.
take chances and build small businesses. And in addition to you've got a double plus because you're also in the industry talking to the dealerships and the companies that are hiring, firing, people that are looking for jobs and losing their jobs. So, I mean, for us, that's awesome because any kind of information we can put out into the people listening to understand of the pitfalls that are happening now in our industry. And so how important it is to be able to get kids into, you know, like you said, not everybody's a college kid, you know, not everybody is, but it would be great to get more people involved in like Motorcycle Institute, you know, like to learn how to trade and to bring that next generation of great mechanics, great motorcycle builders, you know, great minds of this industry to take us continuing on. So I think part of that is happening, but it's just in smaller numbers. So it's up to us, you know, our whole community, a whole planet of two riders and enthusiasts to make sure that we're always educating people with not just one thing, but educate them with everything. So give them enough knowledge.
Well, I appreciate you guys letting me like come on and do that. I mean, it's like hopefully enough people see it, but you know, when I'm talking to employers and I kind of give them my advice, and it's like, and who am I, right? Some of these people know me, and some of them don't have a clue who I am. But it probably sounds like I'm a sales guy, and I'm always like, man, if they only knew me and they knew what I knew, they would like be more trusting, you know. But it's like, I'm not just trying to upsell you on something. I promise you, it's like these are the things that I see going on. You know, like hiring is not easy like right now, man. And everybody just wants to think like, I'll post the free job on Indeed. I'll get 50 like candidates and somebody in there is going to be really good. And then they'll post that same job on MIJ and they'll get far less candidates. Well, we're not Indeed, you know, we're not getting all these unemployment people who are just trying to satisfy their EDD requirements.
You're a specialized you know, place that has exactly just like Cycles Worldwide, what we're doing with our marketplaces. We want to create a place that all motorcyclists globally go to for all information, including jobs, including employers posting, things of that nature. So, I mean, that's the future, you know?
I mean, how we can better work together, you know, going forward. We'll do it. We'll figure out, because, you know, as I keep saying, it's a passion project and it's Alex's, and we're not getting rich over here. It's not what it's really about. It's about keeping the industry strong. I mean, his eggs are in the basket, you know, from Western Power Sports, and me with Phoenix Handlebars. So that's why I say I always tell people, I do not expect anything free from Phoenix Handlebars. It's my company. It's like, I don't ask for free editorial. I understand how the game's played. However, on MIJ, I do ask, I'm like, the industry to kind of rally around this thing that is like, it's not mine. I'm trying to just keep it like, this is for all of us. So I do ask for that help. And I will, and like I say, I, you know, unashamedly say like, hey, please help me.
No, we
help me help the industry.
That's exactly what we're all about,
Rising
buddy.
tides,
so this is gonna, we'll talk off the air after, but in more detail.
Cool.
All right, buddy. Ben, let's rock and roll with the speed round here.
Ready for the speed round? Bam, 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 bam. All right. First question: if your bike could talk, what's one thing it would nag you about?
And like, do you know any maintenance? Like, are you just a lazy puke?
All right, that's good, bro.
Good one. All right, what would be the absolute worst superpower to have while riding?
What's the worst superpower? Yeah, I would have to say like being able to like see through chicks' clothes like lining the track.
Be distracting.
X-ray eyes.
Awesome.
All right, what's the best motorcycle you have owned or ridden?
Oh, wait, the best one. How about my Ducati Monster? Like was like a dream. Just was a blast.
You still have that bike?
No, I did get rid of it, but it was awesome because speed round. But real quick, I'll talk super fast. Like say, I used it for commuting. I used it for commuting, like in the Bay Area, and the idea was that I was going to ride 4 days a week, like up to Redwood City. Like I didn't know how to split traffic and stuff like that. And so I thought it would be fun to do just every once in a great while, until I realized that splitting traffic was kind of fun. And I don't ride like an idiot. You know, I think being a dirt biker first helped. And I'll never forget the first time I got caught in a torrential downpour rain, and it was like no big deal. I had my cardo on, I'm listening to music, rain's pouring, every car is like stopped, and I'm just like
right
on the way home. And I thought, I will never drive a car to work ever
Good
again.
for you.
I was like, who cares? It's like, dude, being on my motorcycle was like this, like, another cliche. I would get home and there would be zero stress in my life. Whereas if I was driving the truck home, you're just like, God damn,
Right.
I'm
I
so
know.
happy to be out of that truck. I was stuck in traffic. And that's when I said, I'll never not ride the street bike again.
Cool.
Sorry for the
That's okay.
longest speed answer round ever, but
These are made up rules anyway. If motorcycles didn't exist, what weird hobby would you be known for?
I would probably eat like cookies, ice cream, cake. Yeah. Because that's
Sweet
pretty much,
tooth.
that's my like second,
I know.
that's my, it's not a true pastime, but I've kind of made it into one. So I'm proud of
It's a
that.
hobby of weakness.
Right
I'm-
on.
I'm a walking type 2 diabetes waiting to happen. So.
Speaking of, what's your guilty but go-to pleasure for an alcoholic beverage? And if you don't drink, what's your go-to snack?
See above. I don't drink. I'm kind of like lame. You know what was awesome about not being a drinker was at the indie trade show. Also, when you're in the industry and everybody parties and drinks,
That's right.
I don't party and drink. I never did. So I missed out on all the kind of the cool stuff that might happen like after hours. But it also allowed me to be
Maybe.
like the sober guy to like kind of like work deals just enough until like I saw the
Right.
Right.
like up until the point of too drunk, and then I was
when
like,
their
I'm
eyes
out.
start rolling in the back of their head. That's fun.
Yeah.
All right. What is the most underrated piece of gear every new rider should consider?
Like I said, probably handlebars.
Nice. I
Easy
love it,
answer.
bro.
Right
Good
on.
But you
job.
you don't wear just me.
Yeah.
So,
Great plug.
Yeah.
you
All
know,
right. If you could get up on stage and sing or jam with one band, who would it be?
I could grab that and play really poorly with Allison Chains.
Yes. A lot of people, man.
Oh
Yeah,
my
Yes.
God, I can't do like
Yeah.
one. I can't do like one. That's music.
It's amazing how many people have selected Alice in Chains on that question. It might be the number one band that
Maiden.
people that have brought out if you were to do numbers.
I have a hard on for Jerry Cantrell like right now. Everything he touches is just blowing me
he's
away.
insane,
So
man. He's
I'm just
insane.
I love music.
Me too.
Music documentaries are 100% have been they are always my inspiration for Phoenix Handlebars.
Yeah.
It's always music documentaries because bands like, take like Rush or somebody like, it's like these bands that nobody just showed up and loved them from day one.
That's
They
right.
always had to work really hard. And some of them
Right.
like worked for decades, to like get people to
It's
like
not- it's
them.
not
And I
like
always
today's
use
world,
Rush as
yeah.
their
It's not like today's world. If you look cute, then you can suck as a singer, but they put you up there and give you the bands used to have to tour and tour and tour. So I know. It's really
No, I mean, you
music's
bring up a
different to me,
music
Jason.
documentary. I've watched them all, and they're all my fire.
yeah,
for,
man. Agreed.
for growing because it's like because Phoenix Handlebars is my art, right? It's not a handlebar company. For me, it's my art. If you go to like the social media, you'll see it's like, I mean, that to me is what. And so to me, I equate it to being like a musician.
That's right.
Okay. Long-winded answer again. Sorry.
Damn, nailed it. If you could recommend one book, film, or documentary to every motorcycle enthusiast, what would it be?
One, Jesus Christ, man. I can't.
Yeah, you can spew a few.
We've
It's
done
okay.
this. We've done this for an hour. Book. I mean, book, like you're saying, I
It
read a
could
lot
be
of
book,
business marketing
documentary,
books.
or a film. So it doesn't have to be just a book. It could be a
God damn it.
movie. It could be a documentary that you've seen that kind of hit you in the motorcycle world.
Dude, it's tough.
I know,
Again, because
I
I
know, there's
mean,
a lot.
I'm a plethora of them, which is why I can't I couldn't pinpoint you one. I'm reading Play Bigger like right now, and I literally a book that I read. First time this ever happened to me, I read it, literally got to the last page, went right back to the first page and started rereading it like that. Really like Creativity Inc., which is kind of the story of merging, it's Pixar, but it's merging business with creativity. And that one to me is a huge, awesome takeaway. I've read
That's
it like
cool.
probably 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
So
That's a good
love
one.
that. Documentary, any documentary. Skinnered one. really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Lots of inspiration in there.
Yes.
And those guys.
Heck yeah. All right, you wake up with the voice of a cartoon character. Which one do you hope it is?
Goodness. Well, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, I guess, is what I've been told I look
Yes.
like. So
That's so funny.
All right, best place you've ever ridden and why?
man, I rode did a street bike ride up in the Sierras with Chris Cantle, who was the editor of Motorcyclist there, and he had just gotten back from riding in the Italian Alps, and he told me that the ride that we were doing that day was even more epic than what he just did. And so that was kind of like a weird takeaway of like something that I just knew
Insane.
what I was doing was amazing, but him saying it was that amazing
Right.
made me like just
Yeah.
even more so.
Must have
But I'm
Appreciate it
Must
even
have
more.
been.
Yeah.
All right, what is a common maintenance mistake that even experienced riders sometimes make?
Oh, yeah, I would say tightening chain. I feel like I said, we're all, not really like it feels like they've got their own method for like how to tighten a chain or That's right.
Good one.
Right. Nuance. If you could time travel, which era would you visit and why?
But I kind of just really, I think as I'm getting older and more nostalgic, I miss the simplicity of the 80s. I miss a pre-internet.
Love it, man.
I mean, going back way in time would be rad. You watch a lot of Godfather. I would love to have gotten to see that. But I honestly, man, I just miss
Yeah.
a simpler time.
Me too, man. Me too, bro.
Yeah.
Me too.
Pre-internet. All right, last dinner ever, what would it be?
Probably gonna be like probably like slice of cheesecake, wash it down with like some like probably like oatmeal cookies and
Wash it
Man.
down with oatmeal cookies.
Yeah.
You
I eat
you
brown
gotta
and
get
white.
the
My wife-
diabetes check, man.
yeah. I'm a brown and white kind of guy. So give me some chicken, mashed potatoes, a biscuit, and I'm solid.
Nice.
Nice. Midwest.
Midwest.
All right, what is the best prank you've ever pulled on a fellow rider?
As chatty and funny as I am, I'm not very clever and creative. So I can't say that I've probably ever pulled one off because I'd probably be fearful of how it would come back to me in droves.
Okay, that's
Wow.
that's good.
There. The karma. All right, last question. Besides the One Gang podcast, what is your other favorite podcast out there?
I listened to How I Built This. It's an NPR podcast, and it kind of goes through all the different. Guy Raz talks to everybody about how did you build your company, and it's not their successes; it's all the goddamn failures is what
That's
keeps me
cool.
going
That's
because you
cool.
just feel
That is
like
cool. You can
you
learn.
just feel like you're not alone because
Yeah,
it's a
you feel seen.
it's one of those things where I say being an entrepreneur is a lonely place, and I
Super.
will attest that it definitely feels that way. And that podcast has been easily like my best friend
That's cool, man.
because you're like, okay, well,
Nice. I'm checking that out then.
it's so good.
Jason,
and I tell
it's
you,
called how you say what's it called?
How I Built This.
How I built this.
How I
I
Built
built
This.
this. And I'll tell you this, go back and listen to a lot of the older ones because you'll start to recognize certain brands. But let's just use here's my say, I'll put myself out there as sound like a racist asshole. So there was one called Edible Arrangements. We all know the
Yep.
you know what edible arrangements
Right.
are. So I'm like, well, first off,
Mhm.
I don't eat fruit. So I don't really give a shit how you came up with this thing to be fruit. And then the guy had a very Indian sounding name. And so I was just nah, I don't feel I just felt like it was going to be somebody who's come to the United States and maybe they had money. And it's how's this going to be even applicable to me? And I got to tell you now, one, I ended up going I'm like, wow, you're a jerk. It's you shouldn't have
Prejudged.
don't prejudge
Right.
people. Right. And I've heard that story after story that I'm I can't believe I almost didn't listen to that because I thought I wasn't going to find something applicable. And every time I find something and it's man, they were just in the same boat as me. And while maybe the products might not match, there's still always a takeaway that just blows me away.
Cool.
The only ones that kind of
That's
haven't are
solid.
maybe the
Definitely check it
younger
out.
generation. It's hard for me to relate to somebody who maybe it's like 20 or so that has grown up so much different than we did.
Yeah. Right on. Sweet. Well, you survived the speed round,
Good
man.
job, buddy.
You made it
Good
through,
job.
Jason. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us, man. Your insight is absolutely awesome. It's really cool to hear what you're doing, and the passion project definitely makes sense to keep the industry moving forward, and it's in all of our best interest to support what you're doing over there. Thank you
Man,
very
I-
much
You
for
got
joining
two
us,
big
man.
fans here in the Sunshine State, brother.
Mm.
Phoenix Handlebars.
dude.
We wish your small business nothing but success as you keep growing and you know keep giving back to the industry, because it's guys like you. Without guys like you, you know, we just become extinct like dinosaurs. So keep up that awesome work
Well,
that you're doing, brother. Keep spreading the passion of this, because just talking to you for this last hour and a half, we realized, man, that it's fulfilling, because I see it in your voice and the way you describe everything. So you still got that flame, man, which I love. So it'd be great to
I appreciate it,
follow
man.
the journey.
Well, I mean, I've got a million questions for you guys. I would love, so we'll have to do another one, and that way I'll flip the script and I'll let somebody ask and figure out where you
Right
guys. I want to know more about your story, but I appreciate that you guys would let me come on and talk about both Phoenix Handlebars and MIJ. Again, they're both very, very important parts of my life, as there's all is motorcycling. So that's what you guys are doing, helping spread my story and everybody else's. That's what I dig, man. It's cool because again, it's all the stories behind these people, behind when the helmet's off.
That's it, man.
Who's the person?
That's it.
Right. So
That's it. Thanks, brother. Thanks for the kind words. Appreciate that.
Yep.
All right,
very
man.
much. Rock on. Thanks,
Have a
Jason.
good holiday season.
yeah, you guys as well. Thank you.
Take care, buddy.
Take care, brother.